Hey friends, this is Marilyn from tarotclarity.com again, and I'm back because I want to do a part 2 on the Jean Spangler reading that I did earlier because something just doesn't sit right with me. But before I get into all that, I want to point out that I did make verbal mistakes. I think that the event happened in 1946, but I kept saying 1953 because I got on a Marilyn Monroe jag. And she was a starlet in 53, so that's kind of why I went off on that jag. But the event happened in 46. And I said, Kirk Russell. There's no such person as Kirk Russell. But I was thinking, I don't know, I guess I got confused. And I didn't get confused because I knew who I was talking about. I was talking about somebody whose initials are KD. But I said KR instead. So I did clarify in my descriptive area. And just moving forward, if you don't already know this, some of you who've been with me forever know this because I've made the announcement a few times. If I ever make a faux pas, check my description because I'm usually always aware of it. But what I don't see the need to redo a whole video because I made a verbal faux pas, you know. But at any rate, the thing that doesn't sit right with me about that whole thing, and I'll link part 1 down below, and this can be considered part 2. Is the handbag, right? Because the reading sort of verifies what many people have suspected happened. But then why was the handbag found in Echo Park? Wouldn't she have had, she would have had her handbag with her. Let's think of reasonable explanations. If what happened in the cards is what happened, okay, we'll go on that. Which seems a pretty good, I thought. If what happened in the cards and what many people believe happened anyway was kind of like a validation, what was the handbag doing in Echo Park, right? And so anyway, so let's just see what the cards have to say. I'm not going to do my signature 13 card spread. I'm just going to do a 3 or 4 card spread. And I've already, before I turned this on to start talking, I already meditated and went into my place. But I'll do a few more shuffles and flip the camera and do a few shuffles in front of you so you know it's not a staged read. But I am really curious about how that handbag ended up in Echo Park. And I've been thinking about this all day. I had my grandson just went home a few minutes ago. And I have been thinking about it all day. It's like, well, why would that handbag be there? She would have taken it with her, right? Like in the rear window. Woman would take her best handbag with her. But she would. This woman, she would have taken her handbag with her to an appointment, right? So how did the handbag end up in Echo Park? And if I need to do more than the 3 or 4 cards, I will. It's as needed. The universe knows it's as needed. And again, I'm using the Jacob Yerger by Artisan Tarot. And the reason I'm using it again for this one is because I used it for the last one. So just give it one more shuffle. Growth opportunity. Let's see what the quint is. 3 and 4 is 7. 7 and 2 is 9. The Hermit. Is it going to be the last card? Oh, there we go. The Capuchin. Remember, in this deck, being a Besançon, that's a Capuchin. So just like the handbag not making sense being in the park, because she would have taken it with her, right? She would have taken the handbag with her to an appointment. So things are out of sequence. And isn't it interesting that these cards are also out of sequence? We have 2, 3, and 4. We have a straight, but they're not in sequence. We have 3, 4, and 2. So that tells me that it was probably, you know, it too was out of sequence. It was out of sequence because after, I think what this probably is suggesting is that after what went down, maybe the handbag was staged. Maybe they just took it to Echo Park, so a random place, and just dumped it there to make it look like, you know, to make it look like a person was assaulted or robbed or whatever, and that foul play met her at the park. That would have been a clever thing to do. And the only reason I've come up with that is because I have cards that are out of sequence. And the event with the handbag in Echo's Park also seems out of sequence. So when you pick up on stuff like that, you know, the message doesn't just have to be the meaning of 3 coins or 4 cups or 2 swords, right? It could just mean, it could be the numbers. So you have to look, you know, you have to pay attention. And it happens over time where you start noticing things like that. Now, as far as Capuchin, well, he's got the answer, right? He's the one who's shedding light in this direction, and he's shedding light on the sequence is how I'm picking it up. So that was kind of easy. So there goes my mystery. I thought about it all day. I was like, what the heck? What the heck? And we have cards that are out of sequence, just like the handbag was out of sequence. So that was I think that was a clever thing to do, was to take the woman's handbag, put it in a public place, break the strap. Too bad there's no such thing as DNA in 1946, you know, because, and isn't it too bad that handbag, there's no, the police department has lost it. It no longer exists in the police department. Isn't that something? Oh, there's a question. Let's do that. What happened? Why? Why did that handbag disappear? Evidence doesn't usually disappear from police stations, right? I mean, I'm sure there's evidence from cases older than that. Why? And I'm not going into my meditative place, but since this is still the same subject material, I'm going with the few shuffles that I'm doing. Okay, the question again is, why did the handbag go missing? What happened to the handbag? Why did the evidence go missing? Was it an accident? Was it just sloppy detective work, or was there something else? That's interesting. A piercing instability. Wow. Oh. 8 batons. Excuse me, 9 batons. So we have 6 and 5 is 11. 11 and 9. 11 and 9 is 20. Judgment. Wow. Sorry about this. I try not to make you go through all this with me, but every time I push the button to pause, that's exactly when I tend to make my errors. So if you can endure hanging out with me. And for those of you who love this Jacob Yerger by Artisan Tarot, do read the description for the, when I did a comparison between the Artisan and the Yves Renaud deck. I cut and paste information that Kristen Condor sent me, and she goes into detail about the differences between the 2 decks. So, and it's definitely worth a read. What am I looking for again? Oh, I think I'm looking for Judgment, right? Because I think I got 20, right? We have 6 and 5 is 11. 11 and 9 is 20. Phew, okay. So we're talking about a police station, and we have two suits which could be seen as weapons. So it could be seen as the authorities, right? Could suggest they're both uneven numbers, because there could be, you know, it could be like an uneven handling of materials. I don't see any coins here that would suggest practical or material things, but it could suggest mishandling for sure, or with, you know, irregularity. Could be irregularity. Remember, we're answering the question. We're interpreting the cards, right? We're interpreting the cards in the context of the question to answer the question. What happened to that handbag? You know, why did it disappear? Now, we still have, we still have that shape. So it still sort of suggests that we were on the right track about the feminine condition, right? And the piercing. I mean, this is about the handbag in the police department, but it's interesting to see that reference. It's also very interesting to see the lover card. Maybe the lover, the one who was responsible for, well, she was responsible for getting herself pregnant too. However, maybe the lover had something to do with it. Maybe there was some kind of intervention. I don't know. However, if there was intervention, if the lover said, paid them off, wouldn't he be admitting to her disappearance? That would be, but there is a, you know, there is a suggestion of like a lover being involved in the mishandling. And this being brought to, you know, this could, in the context of the question, what does this mean? Being brought to light, being held accountable. You know, I don't see any coins. I don't see money. I don't see that the lover paid anybody off. I do see that the lover had something to do with it. And there was a mishandling. At the very best, a disorganization, or, you know, what might be considered sloppy work, right? And as I said, these are weapons, so it suggests sloppy work in the department, you know. But the Judgment card would be a card suggesting bringing something to light. I guess it would prevent it from coming to light. I guess it would prevent it from coming to light, even though I don't see any contraindications to, you know, to suggest that this should be a negative. But I mean, these two usually work together, so there's no contraindication. They work in support of one another. But they both are uneven. I guess it could be describing an unsettling, sloppy handling. The lover behind it, and maybe the unevenness of it and the sloppy work, instead of leading us to the revelation of what happened, it could just be preventing revelation of what happened. Or this card could be saying, this is what happened. You know, the lover was behind it. I don't see an exchange of money, but there must have been, maybe there could have been something in it. Or maybe the lover knew somebody. Maybe the lover knew somebody in the police department and was able to do something. We don't know, right? This may be a mystery we don't know. And this Judgment card could just be, this is the answer. That could be that. This could be saying this is the answer. Or maybe someday it'll be brought to light. Usually when I see this card, and I'm not able to piece it as neatly as I could the other things, usually when I see a card, I can figure out how it relates to the question. But, you know, when I see this card, usually it reminds me of like an announcement, or something being brought to light, or being held accountable for something. But I don't think anybody was ever held accountable. And I do think the lover maybe had some influence. Maybe there was no money exchanged, but maybe there was a relation. Maybe there was somebody like that. Maybe even as high up as a judge. Wow. Maybe as high up as a judge. Who could have gotten something to disappear neatly? Maybe a judge. Wow, maybe. But then we'd have to know who the lover was and what his connections were with any judge, etc., etc. Well, I guess it's going to remain a mystery. But it clears things up a little bit for me, especially understanding that the whole thing about that handbag. It really kind of threw me. Oh, well, friends, I hope you enjoyed these two readings on this topic. Until next time, friends, peace, stay well, be kind, and do no harm.